Andy Farrell has named his 35-man Ireland squad that will tour South Africa for those 2 test matches at Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria on the 6th of July and Kings Park Durban on the 13th of July. As good as rugby gets in 2024. And I'm hoping it's going to live up to the quality and the intensity of that game in the Rugby World Cup pool stages. The best game I've ever watched live in the stadium. The best atmosphere I've ever experienced as well. It was incredible. 2 amazing rugby teams. Obviously, Ireland got the spoils that day, but South Africa went home with the all-important Rugby World Cup trophy. So it's the Six Nations champions going to the backyard of the world champions. This should be absolutely epic. It's why on Monday next week I fly out to South Africa, because I'm going to be covering it on the channel. I'm also going to be getting a bit of Craven Week next week, seeing the next generation of box. But then, yeah, it's all eyes and all the coverage on South Africa against Ireland. So if you want to make sure you don't miss any of that, hit subscribe. Leave your thoughts down below. If you're an Ireland fan, what do you make of Andy Farrell's squad? I'm going to go through it position by position. There's quite a lot of talking points that come from it, whether that's the players that aren't available, the players that have been left out, and some of the interesting choices with the players that have been picked. Just an interesting one. 35 names. 18 of them are Leinstermen. 7 Munstermen. There's a couple that might feel hard done by there. I'm sure Munster fans might have been looking at double figures when we look at some of the players left out. Ulster have got 6 and Connacht 4. But in terms of the players unavailable, I mean, there's Ian Henderson and Matt Hansen. They're injured for a while. We knew about them. Hugo Keenan at the Olympics. Jack Conan, it says he's not touring for personal reasons. I don't know if that's a bit like Elliot Daly. He chose to travel because his wife was due to give birth. Is it something like that? I'm not sure. But anyway, I hope Jack Conan's back in green soon. But the big headline here that we didn't know about, like Hugo Keenan, and that Ireland fans, surely you are gutted about, is Jamison Gibson Park. You can't replace that player. I'd say, in fact, Hugo Keenan and Jamison Gibson Park, irreplaceable. The next cab off the rank is some way short of the quality of those two. They are 2 players who are so important to the way Ireland play. And, well, in the case of Hugo Keenan, so important to... Well, no, in fact, the 2 of them, they are kind of the 2 brains of the team. They're the organisation and the tempo of this Ireland team. So it's going to be, well, I guess it's an opportunity. And Ireland are going to be in a better place, you would hope, by the end of this tour. But it's going to be a lot harder doing it without those guys. In terms of players that have been omitted, I mentioned Ian Henderson and Matt Hansen. Players that have been omitted, well, 3 significant ones from my perspective. Ross Byrne. Andy Farrell has done what Leo Cullen would not do. He has dropped Ross Byrne, not even in the squad. Which means that Leo Cullen's first choice Leinster 10 is at best Andy Farrell's 4th choice 10. And 2 players that are Leinstermen are picked ahead of him. That's a little bit awkward, isn't it? Harry Byrne not there either, for what it's worth. So no Burns. If you're a fan of Burns, oh well, there is Tadhg Beirne, spelt differently, but there you go. That'll have to be your Byrne quota for this particular squad. Gavin Coombs, Jeremy Loughman. I'd add another couple of Munstermen that might feel hard done by. John Hodnett and Shane Daly. Obviously, Tom Ahern is injured. Particularly Gavin Coombs is a particularly strong area for Ireland. Jeremy Loughman is a very interesting omission when you look at the fact there are only, and we'll go through the position by position now, 2 specialist loosehead props in this squad, in Andrew Porter and Cian Healy. And I mean, if in a test match Andrew Porter goes off after 5 minutes, you would be a little bit concerned. Legend as he is, proper church, you'd be a little bit concerned at Cian Healy having to play 75 minutes. So what's going on here? Well, there are 4 players which are... Oh, sorry, Ollie Jaeger. Your picture should be there. It's not. Anyway, there are 4 players that are tight head props, which is obviously one more than you would have expected. There's a project going on here, isn't there? Andrew Porter started life as a tight head prop and is now a loose head prop. Is the same happening with Tom O'Toole? That's what I understand to be the case, but Finlay Bealham could be that man as well. Ollie Jaeger has played loose head prop in the past. Is it him? They need to address this, and I guess this just hammers home the difference between South Africa and Ireland. Obviously, South Africa is a nation of nearly 60 million people, Ireland of 5 million people. Ireland have done very, very well to get a really good team, but the depth is not there. So they have to be a bit inventive. And certainly that is why, I was saying that Ireland are going to be without Hugo Keenan and Jameson Gibson-Park. That's the difference between Ireland and South Africa. Damien Willemser is out, and you've got Willie le Roux waiting. Willie le Roux might be out, but you've got other class players that are waiting. Arendse, Colby, Moody, and other players are potentially unavailable for the box, but there are lots and lots of very good players waiting in the wings in a way that Ireland just do not have. So they're going to have to be a little bit inventive. It looks like they're doing that with their props. No worries with the hooker stocks. That's as good as you can expect. 2 British and Irish Lions, first, second choice. Rob Herring backing up Sheehan and Kelleher. Happy days. Locks, 3 of them, unless you count Ryan Baird as a lock. I'll come to him in the back row in a minute. McCarthy, Tadhg, James Ryan. They look like your test 23 locks that will be in the matchday squad, and no complaints there. Very, very good. Back row, this is an area of strength and of depth for Ireland. They've got some good players. Peter O'Mahony hasn't been playing at his normal level recently. Will he be under pressure for his starting test spot as captain? Interesting to see. Cian Prendergast is in there. Ryan Baird. Cormac Isichukwu. That's maybe one of the most eye-catching selections. Rewarded for his brilliant form for Ulster, as is Nick Timoney as well in the England squad. They have both been outstanding in a really good back row. Dave McCann might feel he was slightly unlucky, but like I say, a lot of very good players with Van der Fleer and Doris in the mix as well. Your thoughts down below in the comments. Scrum half, no Jameson Gibson-Park. It's Cowlin Blade that gets elevated into the squad. This has got to be Craig Casey's moment. Craig Casey's got the chance now to deliver some performances in that green jersey, and man alive, do Ireland need him to. Fly half, Jack Crowley. I've put Kieran Frawley as a 10 there because the only other one is Sam Prendergast, who I'm not expecting to be involved in a matchday squad, there for the experience. But what does that tell you? If you're a Leinster fan and you've been frustrated at Ross Byrne in recent weeks, you must be pulling your hair out looking at this, thinking, Andy Farrell, why didn't you pull the trigger earlier and do what Andy Farrell has done, which is make one or both of these two your 10s over and above Ross Byrne. What might have been, who knows. Centre, Bundy Aki, Stuart McCloskey, Robbie Henshaw, Gary Ringrose. Very familiar feel to it. Absolutely as good as it can be. Great to see Gary Ringrose back. And whilst Leinster lost at the weekend, Gary Ringrose came straight back in, and particularly in defence, looked really good straight away. So that's promising from that perspective. And outside backs, I mentioned Shane Daly might feel hard done by. Matt Hansen is out. Other than that, and Hugo Keenan's out. Other than that, it's fine. Jacob Stockdale, Cubehead, is in. And Jordan Lama is in. And you think it will be one of those two fighting for a spot on the bench, perhaps? And let me come to a potential test starting team. I'd love to know, what do you make of the squad? Obviously, give me your thoughts on that. But what do you think the test starting team for South Africa in a few weeks' time will be? I think the pack will look like that. Whether Peter O'Mahony deserves his spot on merit, purely on form, you could argue. He's the skipper. I think he will start. And he tends to do good things. And mentality-wise, stepping out onto the turf at Loftus Versfeld, psychologically, there's not a lot of Ireland players that have been to that place, that have played in South Africa. Which it says something about why maybe it would have been a better idea for Leinster to send their first choice team to South Africa more often, because this wouldn't be so new. But Munster went there and won, and a big part of that is the belligerence and the mentality of guys like Tadhg and Peter O'Mahony. So I think that will be the pack for what it's worth. I think the back line will probably look like that. Tell me if you disagree. And then I guess the bench, I don't know. I've had a few little goes at the bench. One of them had Robbie Henshaw in. I wonder whether it might be a 6-2 split with Kieran Frawley as a utility back. I think more likely. In fact, I honestly, I don't know. That's where the variation might go. Will he need to go with it being lung busting at altitude against that massive Springbok side? Will they go 6-2 split? I think it could potentially look like that. Let me know what you reckon. That's just my thoughts at this point. I'm excited. Like I say, I'm going to be out there very, very soon. I'll get what content I can from inside the Ireland camp, inside the South Africa camp, from amongst the Irish fans and the South African fans, whilst I've also got my eye on all the other international rugby going on all around the world. But it doesn't get better than this tour. And now we've seen the Ireland squad. What are you saying?